Before diving into this incredible story, consider subscribing to the channel and hitting the bell. Every story here has something to say, and you won't want to miss a single one. In the bustling city of Cedarville, the streets hummed with the mixture of horns, hurried conversations, and footsteps echoing on the pavement. The glass buildings reflected the golden light of the setting sun, giving the city center an almost unreal aura. Among the crowd, Malik Hassan, a young Muslim man in his 30s, walked with a leisurely step, his gaze straight and his posture proud, despite the fatigue of his day's work. Dressed in a sober suit and wearing a neatly knotted keffiyeh, Malik sometimes attracted attention. Some stared at him curiously, others suspiciously, a simple reflection of the prejudices society sometimes harbored without even realizing it. Malik, accustomed to these stares, took no offense. His faith and dignity were his shields against the world's silent intolerance. That evening he stopped in front of the Magnolia Coffee, a place known for its pastries and warm atmosphere. He smiled at the waiter as he entered, still unaware that this visit would mark the beginning of a confrontation he never imagined. Inside, customers sipped their coffee, some engrossed in their laptops, others chatting in hushed voices. At the back of the room, a man was looking at him with a mixture of arrogance and contempt. Jason Miller, a white entrepreneur in his 40s, known for his impulsive behavior and arrogance, observed Malik with an unhealthy curiosity. For him, Malik's difference was a challenge, a reason to feel superior. Malik's and Jason's worlds were about to collide. What began as a simple public humiliation would quickly turn into an unexpected lesson, upending the power dynamics in the coffee shop and leaving a lasting impression on the entire city. Malik sat down at a table by the window, took out his laptop, and began checking his emails. The air was filled with the smell of freshly brewed coffee and golden pastries. Everything seemed normal, until Jason Miller gets up from his table and moves towards him. "Hey, you!" Jason called out, his voice loud enough to turn several heads. "Yes, you, with your keffiyeh. You shouldn't be here." Malik looked up calmly, showing no fear or anger. "Excuse me?" he asked, his voice calm but firm. Jason burst out laughing mockingly. "Oh, don't pretend. Everyone knows what you are. You're a suspect." The customers began whispering among themselves, some casting nervous glances, others surreptitiously pulling out their phones to film the scene. Malik took a deep breath, remaining calm. "I haven't done anything to you, sir. I simply ask that you respect my presence." But Jason, fueled by his arrogance and sense of superiority, moved closer. "Respect? You want respect? You don't belong here. I can call security and have you removed, if I want." Malik felt the tension rising in the room. Several customers were whispering, some worried about him. But Malik, true to his dignity, didn't back down. "You can call whoever you want. I won't leave because you decide so." Jason, furious at not getting the reaction he was hoping for, raised his voice even louder, drawing everyone's attention. "Everyone, look at him. This guy thinks he can sit here in our town and act like he has the right." The trembling waiter tried to intervene. "Sir, please calm down." But Jason wasn't listening. He wanted to humiliate Malik in public, to reduce him to a vulnerable figure in front of everyone. Malik, however, kept his posture straight, his gaze serene, letting it be seen that his calm and dignity could not be shattered by petty words or gestures. At that precise moment, it was clear that the confrontation had just begun, and that the course of the day was about to take an unexpected turn. Jason Miller, seeing that his verbal provocations had not yet produced the desired effect, abruptly leaned towards Malik, his voice ringing out throughout the cafe. "You're stealing from this cafe, aren't you?" he shouted. "I saw you sneaking around near the counter." Malik, surprised by the absurd accusation but determined to remain calm, replied in a firm voice, "Sir, I didn't steal anything. I'm here for coffee, like everyone else." But Jason wouldn't listen to reason. He pointed an accusing finger at Malik, attracting the attention of every customer present. Some were whispering among themselves, some were already filming the scene on their phones. Jason added with a cruel smile, "Look at that. Even you know he's lying." Malik straightened, his gaze remaining calm, but inside, he felt anger rising. He knew that giving in to panic or anger would only prove Jason right. He took a deep breath, letting his calm become his weapon. "I understand that you're upset," Malik said quietly, "but accusing someone publicly without proof is unacceptable. You're embarrassing yourself." Jason sneered and almost slapped Malik's arm to shove him away, a move that startled some of the customers. "You think you can talk to me like that? I'm the one who calls the shots here," he yelled. A tense silence fell over the cafe. Customers, shocked by Jason's brutality, exchanged embarrassed glances. A woman dared to approach the counter. "Sir, please, stop harassing this customer." But Jason, confident in his superiority, didn't listen. Malik, however, remained motionless, his gaze fixed on Jason. He knew that true strength came not from shouting or violence, but from dignity and patience. At that precise moment, Malik began to observe the details around him, the phones pointed at him, the expressions of the customers, and most importantly, the possibility of turning this humiliation into a turnaround that would leave Jason helpless. What he didn't know yet was that one of the witnesses present would play a key role in turning this situation around, and that Jason's humiliation would soon be exposed. As Jason Miller continued his yelling and accusations, Malik remained motionless, breathing deeply to keep his composure. He felt humiliation trying to overwhelm him, but he knew that an impulsive reaction would only make things worse. In his head, he began analyzing the scene. Jason's every move, every word he uttered in public, was a testament to his arrogance and ignorance. Malik knew that patience and self-control could turn the situation in his favor. "He wants to break me in front of everyone," he thought. "But I'm not the weak one here." Around him, the customers continued to murmur. Some seemed embarrassed, others shocked by Jason's aggression. Malik noticed several phones pointed at him. These recordings could be proof of his innocence and the injustice he was suffering. He then focused on a mental strategy: not react to the provocation, let Jason expose his arrogance and lack of control himself. Malik straightened up a little more, his head held high, and let a faint, calm smile appear on his face, as if silently saying, "I am in control of myself, you are not." "Every word you say betrays you," he told himself. "Every move you make shows everyone here who the aggressor really is." Malik knew he would have to be smart and strategic. He considered several scenarios: attracting the attention of an impartial witness, using phone records, or asking questions that would make Jason lose his credibility in public. Meanwhile, Jason, convinced he was in control, continued to humiliate Malik in front of all the customers, completely unaware that every word he uttered was fueling evidence of his own arrogance. In a corner of the cafe, a customer watched the scene with growing concern. She was about to intervene, but Malik knew he first had to prepare the perfect moment to turn the tables. So he let Jason continue, calculating every moment, every reaction, to turn this humiliation into a memorable turnaround. At that precise moment, Malik realized something important: the humiliation he suffered could become his most powerful weapon, provided he remained in control of himself and did not give in to anger. And he was ready to wait for the exact moment to strike, with the force of his dignity and intelligence. As Jason Miller was busy humiliating Malik in front of all the customers, a firm voice rang out from the counter. "Sir, stop immediately. What you are doing is unacceptable." It was Linda Thompson, a regular customer of the cafe and a well-known lawyer in the city. She placed her bag on the counter and walked towards Jason, her eyes shining with determination. Jason stared at her, surprised by her audacity. "And who are you to tell me what to do?" he snapped, his voice shaking with anger. Linda didn't back down. "I'm someone who knows when an injustice is done. This young man did nothing wrong. Your behavior is shameful." Around them, several customers moved closer, intrigued and encouraged by the intervention. The phones continued to film the scene, immortalizing every word and every gesture. Jason, seeing his position waver, tried to raise his voice to regain control. "Silence. I decide who is right here." But Malik's calm and confident demeanor, contrasting with Jason's agitation, was beginning to influence the audience. Malik remained motionless, his hands resting on the table, observing the scene with a slight smile, aware that the dynamic had changed. Linda continued, "You can't publicly humiliate someone without proof. You lose credibility with every word." Jason, furious and unsettled, stammered out a few clumsy apologies before turning to the waiter, "Call security." But the waiter, visibly impressed by Linda's courage and Malik's calm, hesitated. The other customers murmured quietly, some expressing their silent support for Malik. In a corner of the cafe, another witness was watching the scene attentively, Samuel Green, an old friend of Malik's who had become an influential lawyer. Samuel hadn't yet intervened, but he was analyzing every detail, ready to act at the right moment. At that precise moment, Malik knew his turnaround plan was now possible. With Linda's quiet but decisive support and the growing public attention, the situation would soon tip in his favor, transforming the humiliation he was suffering into a lesson in dignity for all. As Jason Miller began to lose his footing, Malik remained silent for a few seconds, letting the tension build. Then, in a calm but firm voice, he spoke. "Jason, if you have something to say, say it clearly and in front of everyone. But know that your words reveal more about you than about me." Jason, blinded by his anger, shrugged and pointed at Malik again. "I'm saying you don't belong here, you're..." At that moment, a familiar voice interrupted the scene. "Jason, I think you should think before you speak." It was Samuel Green, Malik's longtime friend and influential lawyer. He stepped forward calmly, his eyes fixed on Jason. "You know very well that your accusations are unfounded. And believe me, if this situation were to escalate further, you would have no support." Jason stiffened, realizing that his attempt at public humiliation might backfire. Samuel continued. "Malik is a respected person in this town. And you, Jason, your debts, your shady dealings, all of this could be exposed. Everyone here can see who acts with dignity and who acts with arrogance." The murmurs grew louder among the customers. The phones capturing every word transformed the scene into proof of Jason's injustice. Malik, motionless and dignified, let Samuel continue, knowing the moment of truth was approaching. Then Malik added, with almost disconcerting calm. "Jason, every word you speak exposes your ignorance and arrogance. Patience and dignity are more powerful than anger and humiliation. And today, they speak for me." Jason, feeling the weight of every stare and the public turn of events, flushed with anger and embarrassment. He stammered a few confused sentences before stepping back, unable to reply. The entire room seemed to hold its breath, everyone realizing that Malik's humiliation was about to turn into a spectacular turnaround. The audience finally understood that true power lay in Malik's calm and dignity, while Jason lost his authority and image in an instant. The situation, once dominated by fear and arrogance, was changing hands, and this revelation marked the beginning of the unexpected turnaround that no one had seen coming. Jason Miller, furious and unsettled, tried to regain control of the situation. He pointed at Malik again and tried to raise his voice. "Enough. Do you all think I'm the bad guy here?" But his voice trembled, betraying his embarrassment. The customers, now attentive, watched his every move. Several murmured, some siding with Malik, others amused by Jason's moral defeat. Malik, for his part, remained calm. He chose the perfect moment to turn the humiliation into a masterful turnaround. "Jason, since you insist on accusing me in front of everyone, explain your accusations clearly." Jason, sure of his authority, began to repeat his accusations. "You're lying, you're suspicious, you..." It was then that Malik, with a quiet smile, interrupted. "Interesting. You talk about suspicion and lies, when everyone here can see that you are deeply in debt and that some of your business dealings are questionable." The whispers grew louder. Jason tried to protest, but Malik continued. "Everything you say about me only reveals your arrogance and weakness. You chose to humiliate someone in front of everyone to cover up your own problems, and now everyone can see it." At that moment, a customer held up his phone and showed Jason the video of himself verbally abusing Malik, with every word captured. Jason's face flushed. He was out of control. Witness and attorney Linda Thompson stepped forward. Anyone can see that the real shame isn't Malik's. Jason, you just publicly humiliated yourself, not him. Jason, unable to come up with a reply, backed away quickly, looking for a way out. The customers clapped softly, some laughing at the situation. The scene, which had begun as a humiliation for Malik, was now turning into a public lesson in dignity and arrogance. Malik, motionless and serene, let the silence speak for him. Every glance in the cafe confirmed that true power lay not in intimidation, but in patience, wisdom, and dignity. Jason had just discovered that his arrogance could backfire on him in the most unexpected ways. Jason Miller, destabilized and humiliated in front of all the customers, tried to leave the cafe as quickly as possible, his cheeks flushed with shame. But the effect of his own words and actions continued to haunt him. Every customer, every phone pointed at him, immortalized his defeat. Linda Thompson calmly approached him and said, "You'd better think before you speak next time. The humiliation you inflict on others always comes back to haunt you." Jason, too furious to respond, nearly bumped into a table as he headed for the exit. The customers, witnessing his fall, began to applaud Malik. Some clapped him on the back, others murmured encouragement. The contrast between Malik's calm and dignified demeanor and Jason's defeated arrogance was palpable. At the counter, Samuel Green, Malik's lawyer and friend, stepped forward and said to Jason, "You have just learned the value of patience and respect. Your actions have consequences. Take the time to reflect on your behavior." Jason, realizing that his reputation had been publicly tarnished and that his debts and dubious dealings might be exposed, stepped back and finally left the cafe, ashamed and helpless. The room, still silent, finally breathed an air of justice and calm. Malik, remaining at his desk, closed his computer and smiled slightly. His dignity was intact, and he had just shown everyone that arrogance and hatred had no place in the face of patience, intelligence, and calm. At that moment, Malik realized that the initial humiliation, though bitter, had turned into an unexpected and powerful victory. The cafe patrons, who had witnessed the scene, now had a valuable lesson in respect and human dignity. The cafe was still buzzing with activity after Jason Miller's abrupt departure. Customers, still reeling from the scene, flocked to Malik to congratulate him. Some patted him on the shoulder, others smiled in respect. But the impact of the incident wasn't limited to the walls of Cafe Magnolia. Videos shot by customers began circulating on social media. Malik's story of unfair humiliation quickly went viral. Messages of support poured in on Twitter and Instagram. "Look how he kept his dignity," and "A real lesson in calm and courage." Tens of thousands of people commented and shared the video, admiring how Malik had turned humiliation into victory. In Cedarville, residents began discussing the event. Nearby cafes, offices, and even schools spoke of Malik's courage. He had become a symbol of dignity in the face of arrogance and injustice. Malik, however, remained humble. He responded to a few messages, thanking those who had filmed and supported him, but he never sought fame. For him, the important thing was the lesson everyone could learn from this event: patience, calmness, and dignity are more powerful than hatred and arrogance. Linda Thompson and Samuel Green, who were present that day, approached Malik about collaborating to publicly advocate for those who suffered similar humiliation or discrimination. Malik agreed, knowing that his experience could inspire broader change in the community. Thus, what began as a personal humiliation transformed into a movement of collective consciousness. The city of Cedarville discovered that one person, through calm and moral strength, can transform hatred into a universal lesson and touch far more lives than ever imagined. A few days after the incident, Malik began receiving messages and calls of support from all over the city. Colleagues, friends, and even strangers expressed their admiration for the way he had maintained his dignity in the face of Jason Miller's arrogance. Linda Thompson and Samuel Green continued to encourage him. Samuel, impressed by his composure and mental strategy, suggested, "Malik, your calm and intelligence are remarkable. If you'd like, I can help you advocate for other people who are victims of discrimination. With your story and experience, you could make a real difference." Malik thought for a moment, then smiled. I don't just want revenge or glory. But if my experience can help others maintain dignity and defend themselves intelligently, then yes, I want to do it. At the same time, several local businesses and associations contacted Malik to publicly congratulate him and offer him mentoring and awareness-raising opportunities on respect and tolerance. Local media began to tell his story, highlighting his patience and wisdom rather than the humiliation he had suffered. Malik thus became a symbol of dignity and courage in the community. This was not just a personal victory, it was an example of how to turn a humiliating situation into a positive lesson for all. Even Jason Miller, though publicly discredited, eventually realized he had underestimated Malik. The fallout from his own arrogance would continue to remind him that disrespect can backfire spectacularly. Malik, for his part, continued his life with serenity, aware that true recognition came not from immediate applause, but from the lasting respect earned through dignity and integrity. A few weeks later, Malik walked the streets of Cedarville, calm and collected. The townspeople greeted him with respect, some even smiling, recognizing the man who had faced arrogance with dignity. The story had spread throughout the town and beyond, becoming a beacon of courage and patience. Jason Miller, meanwhile, was now living with the consequences of his actions. His business and debts had come under scrutiny, and his reputation in the community tarnished. He had learned the hard way that hatred and arrogance only bring setbacks, especially when they clash with wisdom and dignity. Malik, with the support of Samuel Green and Linda Thompson, began organizing workshops and lectures to help people cope with injustice and humiliation. His experience became an inspiration to many. It showed that true strength lies not in violence or domination, but in calmness, patience, and self-respect. One day, as he smiled at passers-by and listened to the stories of those he had helped, Malik thought, "The humiliation I suffered could have broken me, but I chose to turn it into a lesson. Dignity and respect are the most powerful weapons. Those who choose to ignore them always end up regretting it." And so, what began as a cruel act of humiliation transformed into a universal testament to courage, wisdom, and justice. Malik had proven that even in the face of hatred, patience and dignity could turn the tide and leave a lasting mark on the community.